Hey everyone, welcome back to bageltcg. Today we're going to be doing a deck tech for Ravenous Rhinar, which has recently popped up in the meta and I think is one of the most interesting and powerful ways that you can take Rhinar in the current meta. So we're going to go over the deck. It's a pretty interesting combo deck that is very different from what Rhinar was doing before, using Ravenous Meat Axe, the whole new weapon, and the deck really revolves around using Intimidate as much as possible and drawing and discarding to activate that. So let's hop right into it. There's a few main pieces. The equipment is quite different here, so we're going to kind of talk about each of them. We're really trying to use Rhinar's hero ability to the maximum effect, which says whenever you discard a card with 6 or more power during your action phase, you intimidate. Intimidate meaning your opponent randomly banishes a card from their hand until the end of turn, so they don't get a block with that card this turn. So if you can banish, for example, 3 of their cards, they can only block with 1, which is probably for 3 or so, and then you can just deal the rest of your damage without being able for them to stop any of it without, maybe armor or a defense reaction from Arsenal. So you're able to push a lot of basically unblockable damage through, which is quite powerful. And we're trying to do that as much as possible. And so the weapon and the new specialization helmet let us do that a lot. The new headpiece, which has the ability to draw a card and then discard a random card with Go Again. So using this, we can get basically a free Intimidate. And then our weapon says when you attack with it, you draw a card and then discard a random card. So both the weapon and the headpiece allow us to get Intimidates right there with the weapon attack and with the headpiece. And of course, we'd like to get Go Again on the weapon, and so we can do that with Beaten Trackers, which says when you discard a random card with 6 or more power, you can destroy it. If you do, you get an extra action point, so you can do an extra action that turn. And since the headpiece has Go Again, you can use the headpiece to get that ability and yeah, get the extra action point for the weapon right there. So you're immediately going to start off with those Intimidates. And you often want to pair this with a Blood Rush Bellows turn, which gets a third Intimidate also. It says, yeah, your brute attacks get +2 this turn, and you do that by discarding a random card, which will trigger Rhinar. It also gives all your brute attacks that +2, and then you'll draw 2 cards as well. So you can do some pretty massive combo turns. The other combo piece is Berserk, which lets you go. If you compare a few of these together, yeah, especially if you get 2 Berserks off, you're going to be able to go not infinite, but able to play quite a lot of cards and do 40 plus damage. It says until end of turn, whenever you discard a random card with 6 or more power, banish it. If you do, reveal the top card of your deck. If it has 6 or more power, draw a card. So most often, because we're playing almost entirely 6 or more power, you're going to be able to draw a card with this effect. We're only playing a few cards that don't have 6 or more power, which is just our Blood Rush Bellows, our Sand Sketched Plans, and then those Berserks. So when we're on the combo plan, we only have those 9 misses. So the vast majority of the time, we are going to draw a card off of Berserk, which is really nice. Just get an extra card. And like I said, if you have 2 of them, you can even start getting 2 cards every time you discard a card. And you get to basically get an extra card if you have something that draws and discards a card. So for example, Pulping, Wild Ride, and our weapon. These don't just discard a card, they draw first, which allows you to get basically an extra card since you'll draw the card, you'll discard a card, and then you'll draw a new card with Berserk, letting you go +1 card, which is really powerful that we have that always available on our weapon. And then also available on quite a few cards in the deck. So yeah, a pretty powerful combination right there. We're trying to pair as much as we can together with the Berserks and the Blood Rush Bellows. By doing that, we can have some pretty massive combo turns where you are giving everything +2, and then you're just drawing cards and drawing cards. And as long as you can keep getting action points, which is probably the hardest thing to keep going, you'll be able to deal a massive amount of damage. So we've got the Wild Rides and the Pulpings. These are all ways to get Go Again, because they both have that effect where if this is defended by less than 2 non-equipment cards, it has Go Again. And then if this draws and discards a 6, it has Go Again. We also have Breakneck Batteries, which discard a card, and then if you discard a 6 or more, it gets to go again. This, of course, is a bit worse than the Pulpings and Wild Rides because it doesn't draw you a new card. It just makes you go -1 card. But of course, if you have a Berserk out, it doesn't really make you go minus any cards. So we have all 9 ways to get go again with that. Of course, we can also get the action point from beaten trackers. And we have Sand Sketch Plan, which is a pretty massive way to get extra action points. This is search your deck for a card, put it into your hand, then discard a random card. If you discard a card with 6 or more power, you gain 2 action points. So you use an action point to use this, but then you get 2 back, so you'll be able to basically go +1 action point. You also get a search for a card, which pretty often you're going to want to find Beast Within, because if you do discard it, you get a new card. So you're not really discarding any cards, you're going +1 card, which is really nice. It also lets you get that Intimidate trigger. So, I mean, you can potentially intimidate all 4 of your opponent's cards by a combination of Blood Rush Bellows, Sand Sketched Plan, and Berserk. Of course, the way you sequence those is going to be pretty complicated. This is certainly not an easy deck, but it lets you do pretty massive 30 to 40 damage, unstoppable hands, right? It does use a lot of your equipment when you go for those, because you're going to be using both of your legs and your headpiece. So you can't do it often. I mean, it's only going to be once or maybe twice a game. But after you do that, you still have a pretty consistent deck. You have 2 for 8s with Swing Big. You still can just do a normal Blood Rush Bellows turn with a lot of your go again. You can still have powerful Sand Sketch Plan. So the deck can still do a pretty decent mid-range plan after it combos. But the combo is really the main way you're going to take the majority of your opponent's life total. I think it's a pretty fun deck to play. You get to do basically all of the powerful brute things. I mean, when you intimidate all 4 of your opponent's cards and then attack them for 40, it does feel like you're kind of cheating in Flesh and Blood. You're not going to get to do that every game, and it's not always consistent, but I think it's pretty powerful, and it's really good into any kind of blocking deck that wants to stop you just by blocking with cards, and is pretty defensive since you just take away their ability to be defensive. There is a second version that we can swap to, which is for more blocking. We switch the headpiece to Scowling Flesh Bag, and we get Romping Club in here because it's a bit more consistent. Not every matchup we can go with the combo plan, because it has a lot of cards that don't block at all. With the Wild Rides and Pulpings, we have these 2 blocks with Agile Windup, and the weapon is not always consistent. The headpiece also doesn't block great. But when we switch to this block plan, I think I'm pretty sure everything blocks for 3 or 4. Yeah, basically everything blocks for a pretty high amount. And we're just playing this more mid-range style of blocking well, and then using our weapon to swing for good damage, or coming in with powerful attacks like Swing Big or Command and Conquer. We can still do kind of semi-combo turns because we do still have Blood Rush Bellows. I even have Berserk in here still. It's mostly because it's a 3 block and you can pitch it for your weapon. So you're not often going to go for the actual Berserk game plan. We did add a lot of cards that are misses with Dig Up Dinner, Reckless Swing, and then we're playing Sink Below, Fate Foreseen, No Fear. So it's not nearly as consistent. It's mostly to pitch and block with, but we do have some of these combo cards still. We still have Beast Within and Sand Sketch Plan. So you can do like mini combos while being a lot more defensive. And there's certain matchups like Katsu, Dorinthia, Azalea, Bolton, and Azuri that you kind of need to be blocking into. They have too many on hits like Katsu or Azuri, where you just can't combo consistently because they're presenting too many on hits every turn. And the deck, when it's in combo mode, does not block very well. This list is from, I'll link the video in the description because I can't remember it right now. But it takes inspiration. I don't think I changed too much at all from someone who did pretty well, I think, at an RTN recently with the list. And I think it's really cool. I wanted to show it off here on the channel. I did also put together a budget version because the deck is, pretty budget friendly if you already look at the headpiece and the legs that are kind of the main core of the deck. They're both just cheap rares. And the only expensive armor is the Bonebreaker and Tunic here, which the Tunic isn't even that necessary. Losing the Bonebreaker kind of sucks, but the Tunic's not that necessary. And then all your crazy combo stuff like Blood Rush Bellows, Berserk, and Sand Sketch Planned aren't that expensive either. So by cutting the expensive stuff like Command and Conquer, Tunic, Apex Bonebreaker, we can go from 770 to 250. So a lot more reasonable. The arm slot is a little bit weaker. Yeah, I mean, it's a decent bit weaker on the arm slot, but nothing else really takes a significant hit. And the main deck really barely changes. I mean, there's almost no changes to the rest of the deck. It's just the loss of Command and Conquer, I think, and Scowling Flesh Bag. I don't even think there's much else that changes, actually. I think there's a few very expensive cards, and it's the Tunic, which is what, $80, 3 Command and Conquers 255, the Apex Bonebreaker is 68, and the Scowling Flesh Bag is 65. So those make up $400 or $500 right there. I think I might have also cut these Swing Bigs because they're pretty expensive as well. No, actually, I kept the Swing Bigs because they're just so important. But the Swing Bigs are what, $87, so you can certainly cut those as well, but they are probably the best attack in the whole deck, so I left them in here, but you can make it even more budget if you want to cut those Swing Bigs. But that is the deck list. I think it's really cool. I think it might be the strongest way to play Rhinar at the moment, especially to differentiate yourself from the other brutes. KO is already doing the best aggro impression. Levia does a very good mid-range with all of her blocking armor piece, and she can do both claws. So she does that really well. But Rhinar didn't really have a spot. You wanted to take advantage of his Intimidate, but there was nothing spectacular he was doing. But I think this might be the best way to take him with getting all of that combo and just some crazy damage output, and really using his hero ability and his specialization equipment and cards that aren't usually used to their fullest extent. So yeah, check out Ravenous Rhinar. Gotta love the alliteration of it as well. But remember to like, comment, subscribe. If you want to see more deck lists, support me on Patreon. I'll see you guys next time.